Hello everyone, welcome to the new video of Power Automate Basics with Examples Part 2. So today we will be seeing relate and unrelate records in Dataverse using Power Automate. We will try to understand this using a real world example of event management application which we used in Part 1. So the requirement is when if the user updates availability status on the speaker record to yes and the speaker domain matches with the event domain, the speaker will be automatically associated to the event. If the availability status of speaker is set to no, the speaker will be disassociated to the event. So for that, we will be using two entities, speakers and event, which are related to each other by n is to n, where one speaker can have multiple events and one event can be associated to multiple speakers. So there are two scenarios, relate and unrelate. So the first scenario is relate speaker in events, where if once the speaker is set to available, that speaker will be automatically associated to the event. Scenario two is if the speaker is set to not available, then if he is already associated to some event, he will be disassociated. So we will get started. All right. So we are in the event management application where we have these two entities, events and speaker, who are related to each other using n is to n relationship. Where if I open an event record, you can see we have a grid, subgrid of list of associated speakers to associate it to event, and we have this domain field. Okay, let me select Microsoft here, and then we have this speaker table where we have some speakers listed, where on the speaker we have a subgrid of list of associated events, and domain is available on the speaker record as well. So the requirement is whenever the availability status for a speaker record is updated, that speaker record will be automatically associated to the event with matching domain of the speaker. So for example, Alex belongs to Microsoft domain, and once we set availability for Alex to yes, the events having domain as Microsoft will be automatically linked to Alex is the scenario 1. Scenario 2 is, let's assume Alex is already linked to some events, but we update the availability status for Alex as no. What will happen is whatever events Alex was already linked to will be disassociated. All right, let's get started with the Power Automate portal. So I have logged in into make.powerautomate.com, where I have selected the environment I'm looking for, and then I'll click on automated cloud flow. So first I have to update the flow name. Let me give a name of relate and unrelate speaker to an event. To choose the trigger, search for Dataverse. Select this. When row is added, modified, or deleted, click on create. It will create a step in Power Automate Designer. So the first step is to update the availability status. So as per requirement, whenever availability status of speaker is updated, we will be retrieving all the events matching with the domain of speaker, and then if availability is set to yes, then we will be associating the speaker to all those events. If it is set to no, then we will be disassociating all the associated events to the speaker. Alright, so we'll first rename this step. State of speaker is updated, right? Since we are updating it on the speaker, we will be using modified. Table name will be speaker. Scope, let's keep it organization. Select columns. Now, since we are updating the availability for event field, this, right? So we can consider only this field as a part of trigger for this flow. So if there are any other fields updated, this flow will not trigger. It will only trigger on update of available for event field. Okay. So here in the select columns, we need to provide the schema name for this field. So let me get that one. You can also do it opening that particular field and then copying that one. So I have copied it. sk underscore available for event. Alright. So the first step is added. Now second step is retrieving the event information matching with the domain of speaker, right? So to retrieve all those events, we need to use an action called as list rows. So what it will do is it will retrieve all the related events matching with the domain of speaker. So let me search an action list row. So if you see in Microsoft Dataverse, I can see list rows. Click on that. So now I'll be retrieving the event information, right? Matching with domain of speaker. So let me rename this first. List of events matching with domain of speaker. I have renamed. Since I'll be retrieving event, I'll update here events. Select columns. I'm retrieving all the events. I mean all the columns for the event. Filter rows. So now here we will be retrieving only those events matching with the domain of speaker. In our case, Alex belongs to Microsoft, so we will be retrieving only Microsoft those events where domain is equals to Microsoft. Okay, so we can either go for a fetch XML query to filter those records, or we can filter using filter expression. So let's try with filter expression. So we need to first identify the filter schema for domain. Logical names sk domain. Okay, since we are filtering the events matching with the domain of speaker, right? So in filter rows, I'll filter those events which equals to, then we will choose this dynamic one and then select domain from here, right? So it will filter those events matching with domain of speaker. Okay, now the next step. So in the first step we have triggered the flow based on availability of speaker availability is updated, then we will be retrieving speakers, will be retrieving events, and then if the speaker is set to available, we are associating all the events to the speaker, and if it is set to not available, if there are any existing associated events, we are disassociating those. So in this scenario where we need to take a decision whether we are associating or disassociating based on the availability, yes or no, we will be using a conditional control here. Okay. So if you see, we have a built-in tool control. Click on that and then choose condition. Okay. Now, if we are setting the availability to yes, then we will be using a relate one. Okay. And if it is not available, we will be unrelating it. Okay. So here we will add availability for available for the event. If it is true, okay, then what will happen, we will be relating it. So under this condition we have two outputs, true and false. So true will hold the relate functionality and false will hold the unrelate functionality. So let me relate it for true. So if this user is set to available, it will get automatically associated or related to the events. So let me search for relate action. So if you see relate rows, I'll rename it to relate events or relate speaker to events, right? So now here table name, what we are relating to, which table we are relating, we need to update. So the table name, we are relating speaker, okay, to an event. So we will choose table name as speaker here, right? Row id, we already have it from the first step. Yeah. Then relationship. So since there is already a relationship between speaker and event, we will be selecting that speaker which already exists. So if you see speakers event is already there. So let me select this. Okay, now relate with. So here, which record we are relating this speaker with is need to mention. So since it's an event one and we already have that information, as we have retrieved the event details, we will be relating with OData row ID here. So once I have selected, so if you see for each loop is automatically added here. So if there are multiple records retrieved, it will run for each record and then relate speaker to the events. Okay. Now this is for the relate scenario. Let's add it for unrelate as well, which is basically the false condition where we are setting the availability equals to no. All right. So in this false we have unrelate. On unrelate rows, rename it to unrelate speaker and event what we are unrelating speakers row ID. We are getting it from the first step. Relationship between speaker and events, and then unrelate with the retrieved event record or data row ID. Alright. So for this also, for each will get automatically added. If there are multiple records, all those records will be unrelated. Alright. So now the flow is ready. Let me save it. Okay. We have saved. We'll just revise it. So the first step is availability status of speaker. So we have this available for event field which is updated to yes or no. Based on that, the second step we are retrieving all the events matching with the domain of speaker, right? And in this step we are checking the condition. If we are setting it as available, then we will be retrieving whatever events were retrieved in this one second step will be linked to the speakers, right? And if the availability is set to no, whatever events are retrieved in this one, okay, we will be disassociating those events for the speaker. Okay, let's publish it. Okay, all right. So let me open an existing speaker record. Okay, so now if you see, Alex belongs to Microsoft domain, and there are few events where domain name is Microsoft. So as soon as I set the Alex is available, all the events with domain name Microsoft will be linked to Alex. Okay, so let me set it as yes and save it. All right. So here it's running, succeeded. All right. Okay, all right. So if you see here, all these events are automatically linked to Alex after the availability was updated as yes. So if you see, all these events are having domain as Microsoft. Okay. Now in the second scenario, where I want to mark Alex as not available. So what will happen? Whatever events Alex was already linked to, all these events will get disassociated or unrelate for the speaker. So let's try that as well. Save it. If you see, now all those events which were already associated are now disassociated. Hence, Alice is marked as not available. So in this way, we have seen two scenarios, relate and unrelate, of speaker and events. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone. See you in the next video.